tutaw sadoy. Moktegatel programmer al tutaw promoter yagidele school ma yagidele plagareng maduoreng perseverance mong gagideng Sonora al tsakalaw o speringil lumuktu arang rira ngal garbelaw kasi plagargum persevere takam give up mo full scholarship mo ila te alemra future raw leng school mo sports na otakangal ngal ke gutmoklal mo successful mo part ra gidele upbringing ngil mo ra polmare kara school ro yung ila klangar ngil spell gutmoklia college degree ngi direct kal sumong soala after sen salo mo professional basketball player am rigel from there so awak nom nang lia awlerio elang gora mlamo odam aklimit ngira 1993 through backlight tamil agimna kira Washington DC and then kilutan maral and mutama DC lo Aurora Embassy gidra DC eng manle gilutan mo kaswes eng throughout those years eng maldol ng Sonora Belau Embassy Belau may giro guil gimulus per sa gimana Washington DC eng gapek karakal Belau ngi matrungal garngay maknaktal kukal ngartiang ima talal ruutal ruulel yak hostel tilop titil meliwek ma sera bagunel kwasi ngal nisringam le graduate did you graduate last year this year like 2 years ago kol talber belaw eng naswakal lo ngitra kawasado ko sa May the interview ngi mel kukal get through this interview inspire ar tokol mi karel at especially ngas kardil kasi bom sabem mo ang karatak club say
mal sulamar bine kelel sebedel mo romsia Sonora lang maybe we can have you start our talk show this morning and can you tell us where you were born and where you were raised?
I was born in Sumter, South Carolina, and I was also raised in Sumter, South Carolina, in May 9th, 1997. My mom is Susan Dengokl, and my dad is Daryl Harrison. We don't talk as much, but that's him. He lives in the States in North Carolina, but I was raised all my life by my mom, Susan Dengokl.
Governor Ngirutang said you finished your college and you got a scholarship to go to college. Mm-hmm. He also said earlier that you're a basketball star. Can you tell us about your how old did you start playing basketball and how did you reach your peak?
I started playing basketball with the school when I was in 7th grade, but my mom said as I was growing up, I always wanted a basketball goal or basketball, and my father at the time was like, no, she doesn't know that she wants to play basketball. My mom was like, well, how do you know? Why don't you just buy it for her? And he's like, no. So she went out and bought me a basketball goal and a basketball, and I would be outside all the time just shooting. I didn't really know how, but I would just shoot and like, look, Mom, I made it. She's like, yeah. But I never really got into it until I got into middle school. I met a guy through my mom's restaurant, and he offered to coach me. And then up until then, 8th grade year, everyone was like, wow, you're really good. You know, you're really good. And I was like, oh, thanks. I was like, maybe, I guess I am. And then in high school, 9th grade, I played varsity basketball because they have JV and varsity, and I played on the varsity team, and I started. And like some of the older girls, they were really angry and upset. They were kind of jealous of me. And so the coach had to pull all of us aside and tell them, like, don't treat her this way. You're all teammates. And then after that, the year went by smoothly. We didn't do too well until we got a new coach my junior year. And we went to the playoffs for the first time in my school's history. And then my senior year in high school, we actually made it to the championship, which was the first time in 19 years from my high school. I went to Lakewood High. It's in Sumter. And we lost by 1 or 2 points in the championship game. So yeah, it was really sad. But then when I got to college, my first year, which is this past year, we won the championship, and I go to UNC Asheville, North Carolina, and we won the Big South Conference championship, and we went off to the NCAA tournament, and we played Kentucky. We lost by a lot, but it was a really good experience. So I probably could say that my career probably peaked around 9th grade when I realized, like, wow, I can actually do this. And I started training harder and, like, being more focused. So, yeah.
The governor said you got a scholarship. How do you get a scholarship for being a basketball player?
Well, it depends. Like, with me, I played AAU, which is like travel basketball, and you like go from state to state and play in different tournaments. And usually there's a lot of college coaches there, so they see you and then they like write your name down and they follow you for a few years or a few months, and then when you're old enough, or like you have to be eligible, which is like junior or senior, and they come to you and they're like, we really like you, we want to offer you a scholarship. And so that's how it happened for me. I played with the South Carolina 76ers, and they saw me playing in I want to say North Carolina. It was somewhere in North Carolina and in Georgia. And they came to my AAU coach, and they was like, we really like number 15, the Sonora. And they couldn't pronounce my last name, but I was like, Sonora. And then he's like, yeah, she's from Sumter. And so they send me stuff in the mail. And then I told my mom. And then so what they do is they ask you to come on a visit to the school. And so I went on a visit to UNC Asheville. And it was actually my first school I ever visited. And my mom was like, I have a feeling like this is a really good school for you. Because I could have, told them like, okay, I'll think about it and then leave and then go to other schools. But I really liked it there. So I just went ahead and told them like, hey, I really like it. And when you say that, it's like a verbal commitment. So they write it down. And then a few months later, you sign a contract, an NLI, and then you get the scholarship. And then depending on like where you're from and whatnot, you get like financial aid and all that. But with the scholarship, it pays for all my school, all my books, so I don't have to pay for anything.
You said you signed a contract with the college.
Mm-hmm.
What's your obligation and commitment under the contract?
It's not really anything really big. It's kind of like simple things that you kind of already know. It's just like you have to, obey the coach's rules. You can't get any law enforcement trouble. Depending on how bad it is, they could, like severe, they can kick you off or put you on probation. So I try to stay away from anything that can get me in trouble.
Grades.
Oh yeah, that's the big thing. And grades. They can kick you off if it's really low, or if it's I think it's a 2.0 GPA, and if you're not that, then you're on probation, and they give you a whole semester to try and improve your grades, and if you can't, then you get kicked off. But this year I was 3.8 GPA, and this past semester I made the dean's list, which is basically when you make like all A's. So I don't really have a problem with that. And I think other than that, as long as you obey the coach's rules, keep your grades up, don't get in trouble like with the law, then that's basically all the contract says.
So you got a scholarship because of the sports.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have what's your major in college? Does it have to be related to the sports, or you can choose?
I guess because I play sports, I like the health field regardless, but it doesn't have to be related to sports or health. You can be, major in anything. But I'm majoring in health and wellness because I want to become a physician assistant, which is very similar to a doctor, except not all the schooling, because doctors go to school for like 8 years, 4 years, so it's a lot. So I figured I would become a physician assistant. And actually my uncle, Alario, he advised me, and then I looked into it and I was like, wow, that seems like a really good career. So I think I'm going to major in health and wellness and then go on to school again after I graduate and become a physician assistant. So yeah.
When do you expect to graduate from college?
2019.
2019. really made you excel in sports and in school? Was it a support from your mom and dad, or?
It was mostly, like I said, only my mom was here for me. But she never pushed me to, do sports. It was always like, Sonora, keep your grades up. Because in school, she'll tell you, like, she wasn't the best student in school. So she always wanted me to be better than her. Like, don't be like your mommy. Do good in school so you can get a good job and go off to college. So my main focus was always on grades. So as I was growing up, I always had good grades. And then basketball just kind of fell into the picture. And then even when I was playing basketball, I was the salutatorian of my high school, which is like this underneath the valedictorian. I was this close to being valedictorian, but I didn't make it. It was me and this guy. His name was Austin. We always went, like, what'd you get on your paper? A 99? I got 100. Like, we always went back and forth. But so my mom always, never pushed me like you need to play basketball, but it was always make good grades, and then if you love basketball, then that's what I want you to do. So, and then when I told her, like, Mom, I really love basketball, she's like, okay, so I'm gonna help you. So she put me in AAU. Anytime I had a practice, no matter how far it was, what time it was, she always took me, and so she was really supportive of me throughout my career. And it was really hard because a lot of times with the AAU, my practice was an hour and a half away every Wednesday and Saturday. And she works, so she always has to work, but she always be like, okay, I'm going to take Sonora to practice. I'll be right back. And then even we had tournaments like 14 hours away just for 3 days. You have to get a hotel. It's really expensive, but she never said like, oh, it's too expensive. She always said, okay, come on, let's go. So she was always really supportive of me.
In our Palauan tradition, when you are born or raised in a Palauan family and you travel to other countries, they always remind you of looking back at your island. Do you have that spirit, Palauan spirit in you? So while you were raised and grown up in the state, but do you have that sense of being a Palauan that someday maybe you can come back and?
Yes, especially through my grandmother. She never. I wish, like I tell her now, like I wish you would have spoke Palauan to me, but she always like come here and do this for me, ngungan. So I always know that word all the time. But with her, like all the these small things that a lot of Palauans believe in that she always instilled in me. I'm trying to think. Like very simple things, like taking your shoes off when you walk into the house, or not allowed to eat certain things, or it's just like a whole bunch. And then she tells me a lot of stories. So and then I tell my friends, they're like, why do you do that? I'm like, I'm not sure. My grandmother told me, so I just listen to her. And then I love listening to my nana like talk on the phone with her sisters. I'm just so interested. I get so angry at my mom and my nana, and I'm like, why can't you just speak Palauan to me? But I'm trying to learn it now. So this is my first time here, and I like absolutely love it. Like I think after I graduate and I do all my schooling, maybe I'll move here for like 6 months and work like with my auntie Letty at her I think it's a kayaking business or something like that, and be like a tour guide of Palau. But yeah, even growing up, I always knew I was Palauan, and my grandmother always had like the Palauan money necklaces, and my friend, it was a yellow one, and I was in elementary school, and my friend was like, why are you wearing cheese on your necklace? And I was like, this is not cheese, it's Palauan money. And then he was like, what's Palau? And I was like, well, it's a very small island. It's near the Philippines. I was really little. I didn't know what I was talking about. I was like, it's a small island in the Philippines, and that's where my grandma's from. And yeah, this is where this comes from. So, and then especially my last name too. They're like, what is that? I'm like, it's Palauan. And so a lot of people, what's that? And I get so tired of telling them. I'm like, just go look it up.
Sonora, what do you say to the Palauan young females? I know there are so many Palauans who are now playing basketball, and they represent Palau in regional games in the Pacific. What can you tell them about the sports?
Especially yesterday when I went to the Palau National Gym and I saw a lot of the girls and I met them, and I'm actually going to go there today to like help coach them. I would probably tell them that no matter where you come from or how you're raised or the living on where you're raised at, if you really want to pursue something and it's something you love, then don't let anyone tell you any different. Do what you love, do what you want, and always have like a positive reason why you want to do it. So do it for your family or do it for yourself. But yeah, don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it because, you're from here or, you only have this much money. Like, none of that matters. Because with basketball, the only thing that matters at the time is the ball. Because, when you're all playing, you can be rich, you can be poor, but it all matters with your talent and how hard you work. And yeah, so don't let anyone tell you that you can't be something.
Kabo Marvin, kadungwa, aulerio kadungwa radala Sonora.
Talk about your Chinese basketball.
Actually, my business that I have, I've had it since '07. I guess this was a dream that I've always wanted to fulfill. I don't think that I would have been able to have this if my brother Sonora Dengokl, one day we were just sitting around doing nothing, and he said, "Hey, let's go to this place. I need you to help me pick up some stuff." So it was just me and him. We go there. And, just standing there, I started getting chill bumps. And I guess he can see in my face, that, this was something that I wanted. So his question to me was, do you think you can open a restaurant? Do you think you can do this? And me, because he likes to make a lot of jokes, I thought he was joking. So for me, I said, yeah, sure, I could do this. So his answer to me was, okay, when do you want to do this? And I thought he was playing. So now today, which is 2016, I have a Chinese restaurant, but we also sell wings. We sell 50 different types of flavors and different types of Chinese food. But I guess it's been successful because of our flavor wings that we have. So the name of it, we couldn't think of a name. And then my brother, for 15 years you've been married to Angeli? 17, his wife. He's never had a son. Finally, he had his son. His name is Sonora Dengokl. And I told my brother, because we didn't know a name, so we ended up naming my restaurant Heroes Wings. Yep.
How long have you had the restaurant, or how long ago did you start the restaurant?
Since 2007. Yep. So it's been almost, 9 years. Yep.
And where are you located, or what state are you?
Yes, we are located in Sumter, South Carolina. Mm-hmm.
So you have been living there ever since?
Ever since.
And can you tell us who's your mom? And
Yes, my mom is, as you guys would say, Margar, but in the American way we say Margaret Dengokl. She is Palauan, and this is my second year here in Palau, and I love it so much. I came last year, and I enjoyed it, but I guess because me and my daughter has a bond, last year was like my first year being separated from her for so long. So once we got on the airplane and we got off and left D.C., Washington, D.C., it was just like something that I told myself I couldn't enjoy my trip in Palau last year. But then when I got here, it was breathtaking. Yeah, it was like the most beautiful thing that I've ever seen in my life. So it was something that I told myself this year that I had to make sure I brought my daughter. Yes.
And so, since you're here with your daughter, what do you plan to do next for Palau?
Come back again next year. We will be back again next year.
How long have you been on the island? Have you had time to visit relatives and families here?
No, actually, we're trying to make our way around every island because it's like there's so many family everywhere. So we're just trying to make, each day, to meet every, family that we have.
Well, welcome home.
Yes, we are home. We are home.
Marvin, dami itong Aulerio. Kalpo doon sa niya Aulerio, kang Uncle Sonora, Brother Susan. Din kang amlugro radului ididro makati emergo emora Miguel mo soldado. So can you tell us about you before your when you left Palau?
Yeah, so I left Palau in 1977. It was actually they just finished KV Bridge, the first one, and we crossed over KV Bridge and we flew out of the airport and then went to Guam. My stepfather was in the United States Air Force, so we all grew up everywhere in the world. We grew up in Spain, New Mexico, Guam, England, and just, so we were so far away from Palau. And it wasn't until 1994 that my mother and I came to Palau because my grandmother passed away. So usually, that a significant reason for us to come back. So when I came back, I made it a vow to get reconnected with Palau and come back here. And, my grandfather Dengokl, he instilled in me whenever I left Palau is there's so few of us. So when we're out there, we have to represent, first our family and then our country. So that's what I try to do while I was gone. And I was big into sports like Sonora. So I was pretty athletic. I had football scholarships and everything else. And then I decided with, not having the support of my family because they were gone. They were in England. I ended up joining the Air Force. And I had difficulties joining the Air Force because no Palauan citizen ever joined the Air Force, so they didn't know what Palau was. And at the time, we didn't have an embassy because Palau was a trust territory. We had a liaison office, and Bucklight McGill was there. So the Department of Air Force reached out to the State Department to verify that Palau is a country. And so Bucklight had to send a letter to the Department of Air Force like, yes, we're recognized by the Department of State that we're a country and we do exist. So I was able to join. So when I joined, my recruiter said, hey, congratulations, you're the first Palauan citizen in the Air Force. I'm like, great. So I ended up joining the Air Force. And while I was in, I became a civil engineer for the Air Force. So most of the time people ask me, it's like, oh, what plane do you fly? I said, unfortunately, not everybody flies a plane. Somebody has to make the runway for the plane to land. So really, so that was a misconception about the Air Force. Not everybody flies. So that's what I did for 22 years, and then I retired in 2012. And then after I retired, I took a job with the Department of Defense as an advisor, consultant. So most of the time when I was in, I deployed to the Middle East, and I became the subject matter expert for that region as far as infrastructure goes. So that's what I currently do today, and it's a pretty good job, and it allows me to come back to Palau every year. As everybody knows, it's pretty expensive to fly here.
So you're a civil engineer.
Yes.
And what do you do in the Middle East? What kind of infrastructure are you?
So one of the things that I do is determine what's a good location to build a base, what type of power for them to use, how to treat the water, treat the water in those regions, because those areas are really tricky to set up because it's so arid, and so you have to be self-sustained because a lot of times you can't depend on existing infrastructures in these war-torn countries. So you got to set up everything, and you're a self-sustained city once you set up. And I don't know if it's, but it's unfortunate that I became the expert in that part of the world because it's not the best place to be at.
So where in the Middle East are you assigned to work with?
I cover all of Middle East, from Iraq all the way to Afghanistan.
And those are areas where United States military are.
Yes, where the current U.S. military exists.
What do you think about Donald Trump? He's a very strong Republican. And he likes to pull out the American forces from the Middle East.
Unfortunately, I don't really want to get into U.S. politics.
When they were building the Rulmuth capital, when we were building the Rulmuth capital, he advised. I was in DC, and he advised me, says that building you should, for cooling purposes, you should wire, put water pipes all around, and then during the day, I mean, make ice, like ice all over it's like through the pipes, and then go ahead.
Let me explain. Marvin obviously is not an engineer. So, well, a long time ago when they were just building, I said, listen, it's going to cost a lot to cool and maintain these buildings. I don't know if Palau realized sustainment is going to cost more than actually building these things. So I advised him, I said, what I would do is set up a chilled water system with ice makers. So in the night when it's cool, you make ice, and during the day you let it melt, and you run it through your chilled lines, and it goes across your coils, and the fan blows it, and you get cool air. It's real efficient because it's off peak at night. So you're not putting a strain on the electrical infrastructure. And you don't have to worry about heat, so you just put a chiller system. So, and that was one of the things I recommended, but that was years ago, and it's easy to say than to actually do.
Yeah, actually, maintaining our capital is very expensive in terms of the power. And
Yes.
that's one of the issues that our government has been facing regarding the cost of the power
Yes.
that it uses. So.
Yeah, and then speaking with I won't say who, but I met with one of the new hotels that are getting built here. Can I say who? Yeah. With the owners of the Cove Hotel, which is going to be opening next month, and we were discussing about how what they're doing to become efficient and a little bit more environmental friendly, and less of a and not be such a big parasite on the infrastructure of Palau. And one of the things they said was, eventually they're going to go into self-generating power because it's cheaper for them to make their own power than to pay 47 cents a kilowatt in Palau. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty good. And they're setting up a reverse osmosis water purification system to where they can make 15,000 gallons of water a day from salt water. But the only bad thing is, during the discussion with them, I pointed out, I was like, for every 55 gallon, you're gonna, create almost 250 gallons of waste. So what are you gonna do with the waste? And they really weren't sure at the time, because you can't put the waste back into the ocean because it's really concentrated salt. And so that's one of the things that they're trying to figure out. One of the things that they could do is make chlorine with salt. So
That's interesting to hear because we had a drought a few months ago, and we had, I think, the state of Israel donated one osmosis, and the Republic of Taiwan. I'm not very sure, but we were supposed to receive 2 or 3 of those osmosis, or
yeah.
and we didn't know it can also create
Yes.
a waste that you need to think about. You have to know where to throw that waste at.
And one of the ways you could do it is dilute it before you put it back into the environment. So, You know, that's the thing is like in the 90s, I set up row pews in Saudi Arabia because they have a problem with water as well. So it rarely rains there, and it's a desert. They're oil rich but water poor. So, yeah.
Do you have anything more to say to Palau? And how long are you going to be here?
So I'll be here till the 27th. One of the one of the things that I wanted to do was bring Sonora here so she could see the rich culture that she's from, and I think, when I left Palau, one of the things that drove me is, and I don't know if I was just young and naive, but my grandfather told me, is like, you're always gonna rise above everyone else because of your rich heritage. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I thought that's what I had to do.
That was a good advice.
Yeah. So whether true or not, that gave me the drive to succeed in whatever I chose to do, and that should be for everybody here. I joke around to my friends, that there's only 20,000 Palauans in the world. There's more endangered elephants than there are Palauans. so we're rare, and it's, as a Palauan being a member of such a small race, it's our duty to rise above everyone else.
Yeah, that's good to hear from you, Aulerio. Are you something, Marvin, or do you have anything?
Susan's going to teach us how to make that famous chicken.
Yes, we're going to the Carp
We're going to
Island
carp, yeah.
Saturday, and my family wants me to cook my famous wings. So we're going to go there, and we're going to cook our famous wings, yep, like I do in the United States.
Okay, give a piece for us.
I will. I will.
I'll probably just say thank you for having me. This was a really good experience and opportunity to be able to talk to, my Palauan family. Like I said before, to let all the young Palauan children know that you can do whatever you want, be whoever you want. Just stick to it and work hard. Stay focused.
Kabo Marvin, da mas meri program ergit ngal selim.
And I'd like to, just thank you for having us here today. It's a nice story to have to share with the rest of the Palauan people that are there struggling and trying to chase after their dreams. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Aulerio.
Gusto lang.